The smoke, acrid and thick, curled into the twilight sky, a grotesque parody of the elegant plumes that used to rise from my meticulously maintained chimneys. The flames, once a warm, comforting glow in the hearths of my mansion, now danced with a malevolent glee, consuming the very essence of my life's work. My home, my sanctuary, my masterpiece, reduced to a smoldering ruin. And it wasn't an accident. It was the culmination of years of petty grievances, escalating into a fiery act of malice. The Harmony Ridge Homeowners Association, a collective of small-minded, envious neighbors, had finally crossed the line. My name is Alastair Thorne, and I'm a man who believes in order. Not the stifling, bureaucratic order of the HOA, but a natural, elegant order. My mansion, Thorne Hall, was a testament to this philosophy. Every brick, every sculpted gardenia, every hand-carved gargoyle was placed with deliberate intent. It was a symphony of architectural grace, a monument to a life dedicated to artistry and refinement. Harmony Ridge, on the other hand, was a discordant jumble of cookie-cutter houses and poorly manicured lawns, a testament to mediocrity. The HOA, led by the perpetually flustered Brenda Higgins, was a microcosm of this mediocrity. They were obsessed with rules, regulations, and the relentless pursuit of conformity. My perfectly trimmed hedges, my meticulously curated rose bushes, my collection of antique garden gnomes, all were deemed violations of their arbitrary standards. The tension had been simmering for years. It began with passive-aggressive notes slipped under my door, complaining about the excessive height of my flagpole, which flew a historically accurate replica of a medieval banner, not some garish national flag. Then came the fines levied for unapproved architectural features, the gargoyles, naturally. And then, the whispers, the snide remarks, the thinly veiled insults hurled across the perfectly manicured lawns. They envied my success, my independence, my ability to live according to my own standards. They saw my mansion as a symbol of defiance, a constant reminder of their own lack of originality. They wanted me to conform, to blend in, to become just another cog in their perfectly oiled machine of suburban monotony. But I refused. I was Alastair Thorne, and I would not be bullied into submission. I fought back with legal letters, meticulously documented evidence, and a healthy dose of disdain. I knew their rules, their bylaws, their every petty regulation, and I used them against them with ruthless efficiency. The battle raged on, escalating with each passing month. Brenda Higgins, with her pinched face and shrill voice, became my nemesis, a symbol of everything I despised about the HOA. She rallied her troops, the army of busybodies and control freaks, against me. They held secret meetings, plotted their strategies, and schemed to find new ways to torment me. Then came the fire. I was away for the weekend, attending an auction of rare antiquities, when I received the call. My heart sank as I listened to the frantic voice of my housekeeper, her words choked with tears. Thorne Hall was ablaze, and the fire department was struggling to contain the inferno. I returned to find my home a blackened husk, the charred remains of my life's work smoldering in the morning mist. The fire investigators, after sifting through the debris, found traces of accelerant, a clear sign of arson. The HOA, with their history of harassment and threats, were the prime suspects. The police investigation dragged on, hampered by a lack of concrete evidence and the united front of the HOA members. They closed ranks, denying any involvement, offering alibis that conveniently placed them far from the scene of the crime. I knew they were lying, but without proof, my hands were tied. The loss of my mansion was devastating, but it also ignited a fire within me, a burning desire for revenge. I would not let them get away with this. I would not let them destroy my life and walk away unscathed. I began to investigate the HOA, delving into their finances, their bylaws, their every hidden corner. I discovered a web of corruption, a tangled mess of misappropriated funds, questionable contracts, and outright fraud. Brenda Higgins, it turned out, was not just a petty tyrant, but a skilled embezzler. I also discovered that the HOA was a corporation, a legal entity, with its own assets and liabilities. And those assets, it turned out, included the very land on which Harmony Ridge was built. A plan began to form in my mind, a plan as intricate and elegant as the mansion I had lost. I would not just sue the HOA. I would buy it. I would become the very thing they despised, the ultimate authority in Harmony Ridge. I hired a team of lawyers, accountants, and private investigators. We meticulously documented the HOA's financial irregularities, uncovering a trail of evidence that would make even the most seasoned prosecutor salivate. We also began to quietly acquire shares in the corporation, using shell companies and proxies to conceal my involvement. The HOA, oblivious to my machinations, continued their campaign of harassment, emboldened by their perceived victory. They sent me more fines, more letters, more snide remarks. They even tried to block my attempts to rebuild Thorn Hall, citing safety concerns and aesthetic violations. But I was no longer playing by their rules. I was playing a different game, a game they didn't even know existed. I was playing for keeps. The day of the annual HOA meeting arrived, and I made my move. I walked into the crowded community hall, my presence sending a ripple of unease through the room. Brenda Higgins, her face flushed with indignation, rose to her feet, ready to launch into her usual tirade. But I cut her off, my voice calm and authoritative. I presented the evidence, the meticulously documented financial records, the damning testimonies of former HOA employees. The room fell silent as the truth was revealed, the carefully constructed facade of the Harmony Ridge Homeowners Association crumbling before their eyes. Then I dropped the bombshell. I announced that I had acquired a controlling interest in the corporation, that I was now the majority shareholder, the de facto owner of the HOA. The room erupted in chaos, a cacophony of gasps, shouts, and angry accusations. Brenda Higgins, her face ashen, tried to regain control, but her voice was lost in the din. She had been outmaneuvered, outsmarted, outplayed. I called for a vote to dissolve the current HOA board and replace it with a new board, one that would be accountable to me. The vote was a formality. I had the majority, and I would use it. The old board was ousted, Brenda Higgins was removed from her position, and a new board, composed of my trusted associates, was installed. The Harmony Ridge Homeowners Association was now mine. My first act was to repeal all the petty regulations that had plagued the community for years. The height of flagpoles, the color of garden gnomes, the length of hedges, all were now matters of personal preference. My second act was to initiate a full audit of the HOA's finances, uncovering the full extent of Brenda Higgins's embezzlement. The police were called, and she was arrested, her reign of terror finally over. My third act was to announce my intention to rebuild Thorn Hall, exactly as it had been before, a symbol of resilience and defiance. But I wasn't finished. I had one more act, a final act of retribution, a way to settle the score once and for all. I called for a special meeting of the HOA, a meeting to discuss the future of Harmony Ridge. I presented a proposal, a plan to transform the community, to elevate it from its current state of mediocrity. I proposed to redevelop the entire neighborhood, to replace the cookie-cutter houses with custom-designed homes, each reflecting the unique personality of its owner. I proposed to create a community center, a place where residents could gather and connect, a place that would foster a sense of belonging. I proposed to transform Harmony Ridge into a true community, a place where individuality was celebrated, where creativity was encouraged, where the pursuit of excellence was the guiding principle. And then I announced my final act. I announced that I would be selling the newly developed homes, but only to those who shared my vision, those who were willing to embrace the new Harmony Ridge. And those who didn't? They would be offered a buyout, a fair price for their homes, and given the opportunity to find a place where they truly belonged. The room fell silent, the residents of Harmony Ridge staring at me in disbelief. They had expected retribution, punishment, eviction. But I had offered them something more, a chance to be part of something extraordinary. Some embraced the opportunity, eager to escape the stifling conformity of the old Harmony Ridge. Others, clinging to their old ways, their old grudges, their old resentments, refused to accept the change. And so, the eviction notices were sent, the buyout offers were made, and the transformation of Harmony Ridge began. The old residents moved out, replaced by new residents, artists, entrepreneurs, innovators, people who shared my vision. Thorn Hall was rebuilt, rising from the ashes like a phoenix, a symbol of my triumph. The gardens were restored, the gargoyles were reinstalled, and the medieval banner once again flew proudly from the flagpole. Harmony Ridge was transformed from a community of conformity to a community of creativity, from a symbol of mediocrity to a symbol of excellence. And I, Alastair Thorne, was the architect.